Hello, hello. How are you? Hope you're all well. My name is Piyyi, and today I would like to share my thoughts on self-sabotage. Have you ever wanted something, really wanted it, and then somehow found a reason not to go after it? You tell yourself you're too tired, you need more time, you're not ready yet, you should probably practice a little bit more, you'll start next week. And sometimes all those reasons are completely valid, but what if sometimes they're not? What if you're not actually lacking motivation? And what if you're actually protecting yourself? Because self sabotage doesn't always look like deliberately ruining your own chances. Sometimes it just looks like waiting, overthinking, perfectionism, making plans without ever taking that first step. And the strange thing is that you may not even realize you're doing it. I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I don't think self sabotage always looks like the way we imagine it. We do tend to picture someone making an obviously terrible decision and then wondering why their life isn't going the way they want. But real life is more subtle. Sometimes self sabotage looks incredibly sensible, and that's what makes it so difficult to recognize. One of the easiest ways to self sabotage is to turn it into preparation. You want to start something, so you research it. You watch videos and then you research it a little bit more. You make a plan. You buy the things you need. You organize everything to the T. And eventually you realize that you've spent weeks or months preparing it, um, but you've not actually done it. And I've definitely caught myself doing this, even with something as simple and trivial as creating videos. You can convince yourself that you need a better idea, a better camera, a better thumbnail, a better understanding of YouTube. You need to learn more about the algorithm. You need to work out a content strategy. And all of these things can be really useful, but eventually you just have to press record, because at some point preparation stops being preparation and becomes avoidance. You When you're preparing, when you spend so much time preparing, you can't really fail. There is something so comforting about preparation. When you've not put the finished thing or product out there, nobody can judge it, nobody can ignore it, nobody can tell you they don't like it because you haven't given them the opportunity. And quite often we think of perfectionism as a really good thing because it means you care, you have high standards, you want to do things properly. But sometimes perfectionism is just fear in disguise, because if something has to be perfect before you can release it, you can always find a reason not to release it. And I've noticed how easy it is to fall into that trap when you're creating something from scratch. You can look at somebody else's work and think, oh, they're so much better than me. Their videos look so much more professional. Their voiceovers sound more confident. Their editing is better. Their thumbnails are better. And suddenly, you don't want to make that video anymore. Not because you've decided you are not enjoying creating it, but because you've decided that what you're creating is not good enough yet. And that's a very convenient place to be, because you don't have to risk being a beginner and making mistakes. If you never allow yourself to begin, you are never the beginner. Very often we tell ourselves, I'll do it when I'm more confident. I'll start when I know what I'm doing. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll do it when I'm more qualified. Um, I'll I'll start when I feel more confident and comfortable. Um, but confidence is a very strange thing. We often think confidence comes first, and action comes second. But very often it's the other way around. You do something while you are nervous and you survive it. You learn from it and you do it again, and eventually your brain goes, oh, apparently we can do this. That's confidence, not the absence of fear, just evidence that you can handle the thing you're afraid of. And I've had to remind this myself, um, in different areas of my life. Even starting an English speaking YouTube channel was very uncomfortable for me, because English is not my first language, in case you've not noticed. Um, but I've lived in England for a very long time, um, and that doesn't just remove the feeling of being self-conscious about my accent or the way I express myself. And if I've waited until I felt completely confident speaking English on camera, I probably wouldn't have started. And overthinking. Sometimes we overthink because thinking feels much better than actually doing. And this is probably where I recognize myself the most, because I can think about something from approximately 20 different angles. What if this happens? What if that happens? Is this the best approach? Could I do it differently? Should I wait? Should I change it? Maybe that's a much better option. And I think I'm being productive. Sometimes it might be true, but there is a point where thinking stops helping me taking a decision and starts helping me avoid making a decision. Because while you're thinking, nothing can go wrong. You haven't chosen the wrong option. You haven't made a mistake. You haven't embarrassed yourself. You haven't failed, but you've also not moved. And sometimes we don't need another answer. We just need to make a decision with the information that we already have and act, and we stay where we are comfortable. This is probably quite hard to recognize, because comfort doesn't necessarily feel bad. Sometimes your life is perfectly fine. You're not miserable. Nothing is obviously wrong, but there's something you keep thinking about, something you would like to try, something you'd like to change, and every time you consider it, you find a reason that this isn't the right time. And maybe you're right, maybe it genuinely isn't the right time, but sometimes not the right time becomes a permanent state, and we can become so accustomed to our current life that even the possibility of changing feels life threatening, because the unknown is uncomfortable, even when the unknown might be better. And I think that's one of the strange things about being human. We don't always choose what makes us happy, and sometimes we just choose what feels safe. Um, and why do we do this? I don't think that self sabotage necessarily means that there's something wrong with you. In fact, I think it shows the opposite, that your brain is trying to protect you. If you've experienced rejection before, you might avoid putting yourself in situations where you could be rejected again. If you've experienced failure, you will avoid trying something where you could fail. If you've been criticized, you will become obsessed with getting everything right. If uncertainty makes you feel uncomfortable, you might overplan everything. Um, this behavior is like self sabotage from the outside, but from the inside, it might feel like protection. And that's why simply telling yourself, "Oh, stop sabotaging yourself," doesn't really work, because some parts of you might genuinely believe that the behavior is keeping you safe. So, the key question is, how do we stop this? I don't think the answer is to suddenly become fearless. I think the first step is simply noticing. Notice the moment when you say, "I'll do it later." Notice when you suddenly decide that you're not good enough. Notice when you're looking for the perfect option. Notice when you start researching instead of acting. Um, Notice when you're comparing yourself to someone who has been doing something for many years while you're still at the beginning. And then ask yourself one question: am I actually unable to do this, or am I uncomfortable doing this? Because those are two different things. If you are unable to do something, you might need more knowledge, more time, more resources, or help. But if you are simply uncomfortable, then maybe discomfort isn't a sign that you should stop. Maybe it's a sign that you're growing. And I also think that we need to become a little kinder to ourselves, because recognizing self sabotage doesn't mean that we should start criticizing ourselves for every decision we make. Sometimes you really are tired, sometimes you really do need more time, sometimes something is genuinely not right for you. Not everything is self sabotage. The point isn't to turn every hesitation into a psychological problem, uh, but the point is to become curious about your own patterns, to ask yourself, why do I keep doing this? What am I protecting myself from? What would happen if I actually tried? And maybe most importantly, what am I afraid might happen if that actually works? Because sometimes failure isn't the only thing we are afraid of. Um, Success can also be very frightening, and if you succeed, things might change. People might notice you. You might have to take yourself more seriously. You might outgrow something familiar. You might have to become the person who actually does the thing you've been saying you want to do. And maybe that's why sometimes we keep ourselves close enough to our dreams, but never quite close to touch them. So, if you're feeling stuck lately, maybe don't immediately ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Try asking, what am I protecting myself from? Maybe you're not lazy, maybe you're just scared, maybe you're not unmotivated, maybe you're just overwhelmed, maybe you don't need more preparation, maybe you just need to take that first imperfect step, um, and maybe self sabotage isn't about consciously choosing to destroy our chances. Maybe it's all about the decisions we make just to stay safe, until one day we realize we've been standing in the same place for a very, very long time. And perhaps noticing that is the first step towards moving. If you're still here, thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Bye.